As congressional Republicans hammer out the bills to fund the federal government, they have a chance to end taxpayer funding of abortion providers and so-called gender transition procedures. This is happening as we speak. So I want to encourage you to send a message to your member of Congress and your senators. Text the word Congress to 67742. That's Congress to 67742, and I'll send you a link so that you can communicate with them. All right. And one of the things that's happening right now, and this really shouldn't be a debate, quite frankly, and that is whether taxpayer dollars should fund transgender surgeries and hormone treatments. That it's in the reconciliation bill. Right now, they've cut off funding for minors, but there's still money in there that would fund these experimental drugs and surgeries. I mean, this should be a non-issue for Republicans. Why? Well, why allocate scarce federal resources to procedures that, according to a growing number of studies, are often ineffective and in many cases harmful? And second, while public opinion shouldn't be the final determinant, recent polling shows that a majority of Americans oppose using taxpayer money to fund gender transition interventions. Here to unpack the latest data is Mark Mitchell, Vice President of Operations and Chief Pollster at Rasmussen Reports. Mark, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here, and what a topic. The Republicans in Congress, they need to get a lot more brave on things. I 100% believe, yeah.
Mark, wasn't this a major issue in the last election?
Absolutely. In fact, we were polling on it in the fall. One of the things that Kamala Harris was supporting was taxpayer funding for transgender medical treatments, and voters overwhelmingly opposed it. I'm looking at numbers: 64% oppose, 52% strongly, only 28% are in favor, only 12% are strongly in favor, and none of the Republicans won it. 84% oppose this thing, 75% strongly. But here's the thing. I've talked to some of these offices down in D.C. The Republicans, I don't even think, believe in polling, because nobody's coming to me and asking for these crosstabs. And I've been doing these issues for years. And these polls are not getting done by anybody, not any of the 501c3s. They're losing on issues like abortion. They're losing on issues like why don't we have E-Verify? It's overwhelmingly popular. They should just pass the law. This is another example.
All right, let me go back. Let me get you to clarify this. You said they're losing on the issues like abortion and this. In what way?
Well, for instance, you have Republicans undercutting each other because they're not anti-abortion enough, and why don't you support 100%? But people have to understand the realities and where the Overton window is. And if you wanted to win on a topic like abortion or a topic like the transgender stuff, you would pick the no-brainers that everybody supports, and everybody opposes late-term abortion. That's a winner. Like, go after that. And everybody opposes transing the kids, going after the kids, having taxpayer funding. Like, these are obvious because it's a little bit more mixed. If you just ask somebody, do you support transsexualism? Right. You'll get a lot more muted results, but they're begging for Republicans to take action on this stuff.
So when it comes to, I agree with you, where you find is your strongest point, and you build from there. And when you look at taxpayer funding of these initiatives, whether it's abortion like through Planned Parenthood or it's the transgender experimental treatments, that's where I think you find your strongest point. But you're doing the polling. Am I correct?
Absolutely. That's how you do it, because these are no-brainers. And listen, Donald Trump won on a whole lot of no-brainers. Border invasions, super unpopular, right? Transing the kids, super unpopular, overspending in the government. But the problem comes back to Donald Trump has really great favorability numbers right now. The right direction polling for our country is off the charts, better than it's been in 20 years. But Congress is getting rated poorly, especially by Republicans. And that is a really bad formula for the midterms. Only 16% of Republicans rate Congress excellent right now. And do you agree or disagree with his statement? Republicans in Congress are not delivering on the mandate given to them by the American people. And 60% of Republicans agree with that statement, 25% strongly, only 13% strongly disagree. These numbers are going to get worse. They haven't really been in session. They haven't really passed legislation. They're not going after the obvious stuff. Like, why haven't we gotten these things like the SAVE Act? Why haven't we put things like E-Verify into place? Why haven't they codified any of his anti-LGBT executive orders into law? Like, let's up the pace.
Well, and that's why reconciliation is so important, because so much of that is rolled into this reconciliation. But what you have, the outliers that are kind of dragging this process with just a few votes to spare, are those in blue states and these what they might call swing districts that are afraid. But you're saying when you look at Republican voters who would be voting in these primaries, they're amped on these things.
Well, especially blue states. Listen, I would stick to Donald Trump's platform because it's overwhelmingly more popular than he is. All of the parts of the MAGA agenda are essentially 60, 65% issue, and Donald Trump's only got a 52% favorability rating. I talk to candidates in the blue states, and they say, man, the establishment Republicans just want to run squishy moderates. And I've done the polling. If you ask people who vote in Republican primaries in these states, would you rather have an America First Trump Republican or a traditional Republican? People say Trump Republican overwhelmingly, and just culturally in almost all of these states. I've done polling in places like California. Guess what? Californians are overwhelmingly against late-term abortion too. The problem is their leaders just frame it in a way that they get the support.
Well, I would think in these blue states, they see the results of bad policy, and so they're eager to embrace, as you said, America First policies, not necessarily, Donald Trump's polling is not the same as his policies. It's the American First policy agenda that drives that support. Mark, we're out of time. I want to thank you for joining us. Always great to talk with you, and we'll continue to track these issues because I think they're only going to get stronger.
Yeah, thanks to be here. Thanks for bringing me here, Tony. Appreciate it.